Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below, your purchase and pricing email question line for asking questions about the purchase of this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Today, we're discussing a watch that launched in 2007, the revival of the Rolex Oyster Perpetual Milgauss. This is the 116400, and the timepiece is 40 millimeters in Rolex 904L steel, measures 13.2 millimeters thick, and from lug tip to lug tip, we're going to do the end links because the distance end link to end link is almost the same as lug to lug on this watch. It is 49.5 millimeters end to end across the wrist with a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. We'll throw it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference. This was the revival of the Milgauss reference that debuted in the mid-1950s, was refreshed in the early 60s, and then discontinued about 1988. So it had been out of the catalog for a while. Rolex brought it back in a universally wearable size. You can see it's flat enough and sloped enough to fit underneath the dress cuff. It's narrow across the wrist from side to side, very comfortable, easy to fit underneath the dress cuff. Also a unisex option for him or for her, because this watch will work on a wrist as small as 13.5 centimeters circumference. You can see further away from the camera, the fit and the proportion looks even better. Now, the bracelet is an Oyster bracelet, 3-link design, and because the Milgauss is no entry-level model, there's polish straight down the center. Polish outer faces, satin finished shoulders, removable links fixed by screws. We have a clasp that's polished internally with a lift lock system, a beak and a hook that snaps shut, and then you actually lift and unlock the articulated locking system. The watch features a Easy Link 5 millimeter tool-free adjustment. Snap it in, pull it out. It's the equivalent of adding or removing one sizable link. Then if you look inside the clasp, you can see there are 3 divots, and you can use your strap tool to change the anchoring point of the bracelet inside the clasp. So you have 3 different ways to set the size of this. You can use the Easy Link, you can remove or add a link, and then you can use the divots inside the clasp. The clasp is polished straight through over the top, polished on the side. The case is handsome, tapered, and a little bit like a fat Daytona. It's not the squared off and sheer profile that we associate with the GMTs, the Subs, the Sea Dwellers, and the Explorer 2s. This is a handsome, fluid form that wears well as a dress watch as well as a sports watch. Screw-down crown, twin lock, 100 meters water resistant. I mentioned that this is 904L steel. Well, Rolex, in addition to making its own dials and movements, makes its own cases, bracelets, and clasps. And they make their steel 904L because it is more resistant to corrosion. It's more resistant to body salt corrosion and sea salt induced corrosion. Standard 316 is highly resistant, but not as absolutely resistant as this stuff. It's also more resistant to certain industrial acids. So more than you need, but perhaps that's what luxury is all about. The dial is black lacquer with a lovely array of contrasting white print and orange details. We have white gold indices, white gold crown, white gold hands, fluted down the center for better contrast. All that white gold to resist oxidizing or tarnishing over time. We have the lightning bolt seconds hand in orange, which seems a little bit perhaps silly until you realize that it is a heritage piece that was present on the first Milgauss models of the mid-1950s. Flip it over, it is an Oyster case with a solid case back, and underneath that, a paramagnetic soft iron cage that encircles the movement to help channel magnetic field lines around the hairspring. It's paramagnetic, it grips magnetism, it doesn't resist it. Having that soft iron actually helps to pull the field lines around the hairspring rather than allowing the field lines to go straight through the watch as you would on conventional materials such as stainless steel. Now the watch is powered by caliber 3131, automatic winding, 48-hour power reserve, 31 joules, hacking or stop seconds. It has the ability to set the watch to the second, beats away at 4 hertz or 8 beats per second. It is a COSC certified Swiss chronometer, and it has a full balance bridge with a free sprung index for shock tolerance and a handmade Breguet overcoil hairspring, so it keeps even time in any position on your wrist or on your dresser at night. The hairspring that's used is also a blue oxidized niobium zirconium anti-magnetic alloy that makes the watch even more hardened against magnetism than the simple iron cage would imply. Plus, it has an anti-magnetic escapement, whereas the original 1950s 6541 and 6543 might have been Milgauss or 1000 Gauss anti-magnetic. I actually suspect this watch is a lot more anti-magnetic than that, maybe even multiples. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details of the Rolex Technician and Engineer's watch. Note the two-tone dial loom for easier distinction.